Okay, let's get started. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Gina Gilpin. I'm the purchasing agent with the town of Vienna. Welcome to our optional pre-proposal meeting. I've got people still coming in. All right. So I just wanted to talk real quick before I turn it over to Marian about the solicitation. We've got a due date of January 5th, 2021 at 11 a.m. We are requesting hard copy proposals be sent in as indicated in the RFP, and a thumb drive with the electronic version of your proposal to accompany that if we need it. Does anyone have any questions about the RFP itself as far as due dates or what you need to submit? Okay, feel free to put your questions in the chat as well, and I am going to turn it over to Marian Surface, who's our finance director. She's going to tell you a little bit more about the project, and then we can field some questions after that if you have any. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Marian.
Thank you, Gina, and thank you everyone for coming in today or to expressing interest today. So as the finance director, I might not be the natural lead for this project, but we have a number of projects going on right now in Vienna. So I'm very excited, though, from a capital planning point of view, to be the lead on this project. And I will have planning and zoning, economic development, public works, and parks and rec helping me out on the with this project. So the town of Vienna, over the last 2 years, purchased 3 different pieces of property. At the time, it seemed like we had a really good idea what we wanted to do with each piece. The first piece of property, we run a mulch yard for our public works operation, and it does what a mulch yard does. It's a little noisy, it's a little smelly, and it's in a residential area. So for 2 reasons, we decided to buy this piece of property. One, it is surrounded on 2 sides by the mulch yard. So someone would buy a piece of property, build an expensive house, and then complain about the noise and the smell. So also, we were planning on building a new police station, and they needed a place to relocate during a 2-year construction period. So it seemed like a natural thing to do. Then, as you'll see with the third piece of property, we bought them a better place to stay. So that piece, may or may not fit into our portfolio. It may have a purpose, may not have a purpose. Second, we bought a piece that was more sentimental. It was the home of the former longtime mayor and longtime councilwoman. I think, as I wrote in the scope, iconic figures in Vienna. Well loved, and had no children, had no heirs, and put their property up for auction. So we bid on it. We bid on it sort of as a sentimental reason, but we ended up getting it. And then it is right behind one of our newly renovated shopping centers that has 7 fast casual restaurants. So it would be a nice place for a park. People could get their food at the restaurant and then go to the park. It's also in sort of a residential neighborhood, so it would, fits in with the neighborhood. It also has 2 street fronts, so it goes through the property, so it has 2 street fronts. So it could be kept whole, or it could be subdivided and a piece sold off. The third piece, we've been talking to a church that is 1 door down from the police station and about 3 doors down from town hall. We've talked to them for years, and in 2014, we bought the parsonage. It's going to become part of the police station. It is part of the police station project and rebuild, which the design is complete. We've bid out the construction contract. We bought this property. They finally decided that they couldn't make it go as a church, and we bought it in September. That was way too late for us to put the police station on that property or to use that property for the police station. But now, it was a no-brainer to buy this property because it's right on what is our civic street, really. It's across from the fire station, next door to the police station, pretty much down the street from the community center and town hall, across from it's a county-owned field, but a very active athletic field. Part of it's town-owned, part of it's county-owned. So it is sort of more a civic building. Next to town hall, there's a piece of property that was an office building that was turned into townhouses. So residential is a real strong driver here, but there's also commercial is a strong driver too. So anyhow, we have a lot of opinions in staff about this, but we're not experts in this sort of analysis. And as I sort of alluded to, we're doing a zoning code rewrite right now, And we're also got a grant from the county that we're sharing the funding for an economic development and market study. And then this pandemic came up. So we're really looking for some expert opinions. And we want you to be creative. We're going to be creative, give us creative ideas and practical ideas, because the planning and zoning director and I have ideas to sell things off and do this and that, but you know, we're not really experts in this. So we'd like to know a full range of possibilities. But we have to discuss this with council. Of course, council will, we're not exactly expecting council action at this point, but just to give them sort of a menu of things that they could do with this property. Assuming this project starts like January, February timeframe, we do our capital budgeting and process in the summer, so it could give us some ideas of what to put in the capital budget. So selling a parcel is an option, keeping the parcels or doing different things. We fund our capital funding in a different way than other localities. We fund it through a 3% meals tax that we started in 1990. That's been a very successful strategy, and I thought it was a really genius move until there was a pandemic and the restaurants closed. And luckily it's very vibrant business community here and sort of higher end residents. So they've been, you know, there'll be challenges for the business community. There'll be continuing challenges over the winter, of course, but things have sort of, they're below what we had last year, but they're not zero. They're at about 80% of last year. So that's sort of, that's comforting. But I mean, one of the options could be raising the meals tax rate. It doesn't have to be an option, but I think with a 1% increase, we'd raise about another $1 million, and then we forecast that forward. We were bringing in about $3 million a year in meals taxes before the pandemic. Now we're looking at about more like $2 million this year, or $2.5 million. It's a struggle for sure, but that's that. And we could also fund some capital spending from the general fund. We just haven't had to because we have this nice dedicated source. So there's lots of variables, there's lots of possibilities, and we're very excited to see what you have in mind to help us sort of move forward with our real estate portfolio. And that's all I've had prepared.
Okay, thanks, Marian. Thanks, Marian. Anybody have any questions?
I can chime in. This is
okay.
Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Good to see some familiar names. Really interesting RFP. I just have a couple questions, mostly around process and deliverable. The first is, I don't see too much in here around kind of engaging, you know, the physical neighbors of the properties or at large. Is the expectation that the other kind of concurrent studies that are underway will cover that, or is the expectation that this process will have maybe more nuanced engagement around those sites? Can you explain that a little bit?
Good question. In fact, Gina and I talked about this beforehand. Yeah, we're afraid of engagement fatigue because the planning and zoning code rewrite has a very robust engagement piece. This is not intended to have a charrette. Maybe later, one of the suggestions would be to have a charrette later on, but the planning and zoning code rewrite and the economic development project are going to have a lot of outreach. So we're I think if you look at some of our council meetings, you get an idea. I mean, there definitely are people who say not in my backyard, and we want to hear a different voice than the not in my backyard.
Sure. Well, you know, my words, would there be the potential, or would it be appropriate to, if the timing worked, to amend or append this process to those other studies that are already engaging, you know, various stakeholders to have some more specific discussions about these properties? Or, as you say, it's really incumbent on this process to learn from those other processes and make recommendations outside of that?
I see the planning and zoning director on here. I wasn't planning on that. What do you think? I think
so. I see this process as being more of data collection, information that we're providing to the elected officials, to the decision makers. As part of this process, I think if there are questions in terms of future use of property because of what's coming out of the zoning update, or what's learned in the market study, we will share that with the consultant. But I really see this as being more of a technical analysis, providing data to the elected officials. And then coming out of this, then, we can talk about the next step and engaging the broader community on it.
Okay, so it's more of an internal working document to understand what you have and what the value is for the community.
And what some ideas are. Yeah, absolutely right, Cindy. And then we'll look into that more, getting more feedback once the elected officials sort of weighed in about what way they want to go.
Okay, well then building off that, not to hog the questions, but is it intended for the final deliverable to include any kind of developer RFP or kind of partnering gestures for seeing the development happen, or does it stop short of that?
No, it stops short of that, mainly because we don't have based on the conditions I mentioned, we don't have a lot of extra funds for capital development right now. So it would be something to be a couple of years down the pike.
Okay, and the town doesn't have a kind of preconceived notion of what its partnership or relationship or involvement in the development would be? That's part of the exploration, is to test different ideas for that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Joe. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Sarah Friedfeld. I'm from CBRE, and good morning from Southwest Vienna, where I'm working. Just a couple blocks away, probably. Thank you for hosting this event so seamlessly. I've been on others that have not gone as well, so thank you for that. I just wanted to ask about the town hall component of the project. You noted that there was some potential interest in maybe relocating that to the church site. And I was just curious if you all had done any preliminary analysis on that, any kind of space work, any thoughts around cost, any scoping there, just curious, or is that just a preliminary idea? Sounds like
it's a preliminary idea.
Okay.
Because it seems like a natural, but again, we don't have a lot of capital funds right now, and that's going to be expensive. So yeah, we're sort of busting at the seams here, so that's a possibility. Definitely, like I think it said in the scope, we're looking at long range. So it could be just a plan, and council may be totally opposed to that and want us to stay here. We don't really know.
It just seems, because this building, the town hall, is over 60 years old, and this is a long-term plan, we should be looking at, does it make, and maybe it makes sense, like I said, the data will support that we just make some improvements to town hall. It makes sense to keep municipal operations there and for the church to be something else. But I think it's just an option. It should be considered as we're looking at these, at all the town-owned properties. I think if we had included it, I feel like we would have had a missing information, missing piece.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi.
Go ahead.
This is Leah Lewis from Christopher Consultants. I was wondering if you'll be sending out a list of everyone attending today.
Yes, I will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for, go ahead.
Steve Geyerson. You mentioned summer budget process. When does that budget process actually work? And are you looking for a receivable for the budget process, or once you have the budget adopted?
Well, it would be great if we had some ideas. Well, here's the thing. We go out for bond every 2 years, so we're going to be going out for bond in 2022. And because we're building the police station, and then we have a piece that goes to water and sewer, we took out a really large bond issue right as the pandemic was starting. So we're probably, it would be nice to inform the discussion. We give it to council like August, and then we discuss it in September and adopt it in October. So if it doesn't fit in the timeline, it's fine. It could be for the next year. So we discuss it every year.
And you do a budget rather than a 2-year budget, or?
We do like a 15-year projection. So we're looking at projects down the pipe. But if we knew that, oh, maybe in 10 years we're going to need to, and actually right now we have placeholders in there, large dollar amount placeholders. It's one of the backup information for some sort of campus study or campus redevelopment and things like that. So we do have large placeholders in the future of the 15 years. We are not going to borrow any money for anything in 22 that relates to these projects, but we could put in placeholders in 24, 26, or something like that.
And are you looking at, you mentioned the meals tax, and of course we've all experienced some reduction in that this year. Are you looking at alternate income replacing possibly lost revenue this year, or doing projections for the upcoming years as sort of a makeup? I'll say makeup for lack of a better term, but for your 15-year budget based on the pandemic.
Well, part of it is we got a premium on our 2020 bond issue, and we can use some of that to pay the interest. So that's a little bit of a backstop, and that can get us kind of to where we were at about the $3 million level for this year. And then going forward, I mean, we've had new restaurants open. They're up about, they've driven everything up about 14%, but then the existing restaurants have driven it down about 30%. So it's kind of a mixed bag. We just opened a Chick-fil-A, a Wawa, a Crumble Cookie, like a privately owned Bear Branch Tavern that are all doing really well. And then there's another tavern or pub going to open like in 21, Cindy, is that right? Hawk and Griffin. So, you know,
right.
Vienna's a good location. So yeah, but so, yeah, I don't expect this study to impact the capital budget, but just to give us some more to talk about. Not in this year, but certainly in future years.
Well, that helps with the knowing the time frame for the budget.
We want a good product. So if it takes it 8 months and it doesn't fit immediately with the budget process, that's fine.
Sure. Going with the timing with the budget in mind, the ongoing studies that you have for the zoning rewrite and for the economic development strategy, do you have estimate times for completion of those? The only reason I ask is the RFP talks about dovetailing with those, or looking at those in relationship to the study. So what are your estimated times for those to be completed?
I'm gonna let my colleagues answer that question. Go ahead.
So I'll respond to the zoning update. It started in this year in the fall. In September, we officially kicked it off. We could be done late 2021. It's really going to be dependent upon the council and if they'll be ready at that point to adopt it. But we anticipate we'll have a draft code ready to go by the end of next year.
Okay, great.
Next calendar year, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I'll let Natalie Monkow answer on the.
Hi, I'm Natalie, Economic Development Manager with the town of Vienna. So the expected award contract for town council is on January 4th. From that point on, then we will kick off the economic development strategy and market study. It should take around 5 to 6 months for completion.
With the
I'm confused. Excuse me, I'm confused. The deliverable is due January 5th.
The proposal response.
Correct. Natalie just said that it was going to council on the 4th.
No.
I'm talking about something separate. I'm talking about the market study and economic development strategy. It's a separate RFP process, and that will be awarded. The contract will be awarded on that date, hopefully, if town council approves.
Sorry. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Okay.
And about 6 month process there.
Okay.
All right. Is there is there a component of market research with that study?
Yes.
Okay.
Commercial areas, So.
And when would you expect that market research work to be? Would you share it? When do you expect it to be done?
So according to the schedule that was in the RFP proposal, or sorry, it's the same thing, the RFP from the expected offerer, that is supposed to be completed within a month, 2 or 3.
Okay. Okay, great. I think that's it for my questions. Well, I do have one more. How many hard copies do you want?
I believe it says in the RFP 5.
Clear on that, so that's why I'm asking.
How
Tina,
many?
there's 5 of us on the panel.
There's 5, so original and 5 copies.
Okay, thank you.
And then the thumb drive, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Amol Deshpande here. Is there a budget for this?
Yes, it's in the RFP. It's 100,000.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Anyone else?
Just one more. When we complete the work, we'll be dealing primarily through you. Is there a committee set up that works with you that we would interact with, or it would be just your office?
I would expect, and we haven't really talked about this a lot, but we've got on this panel to select the consultant as planning and zoning, economic development, public works, and parks and rec. And I would expect we'd be the steering committee on this.
Okay. So it's not a group of appointed or volunteers on.
Not all internal at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
And then there will be a work session conversation with council.
Yes.
Council and
I
a
saw.
presentation. Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. So if you have anything else, please email me. Our deadline for questions is December 22nd. So we have time to get an addendum out. So thank you all for joining us. I will send a list out for everyone. And like I said, if you have any other questions, email me directly.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.